Welcome Rotarians. Today we have a treat for you. On Monday, when nationally we celebrated President's Day, no mail was delivered. Some of us bought mattresses at a mattress sale. I'm not really sure how others of you celebrated President's Day, but while we were busy celebrating President's Day, our two fellow Rotarian presenters were busy working on the presentation for today's meeting. In honor of President's Day, a special presentation by Lisa Hare and the always entertaining Andy Bacham. Please join me in welcoming them as they deliver a special tribute to Rotary Club presidents.
Thank you, Tara. I was going to start by saying that, Lynn, this would be a good gauge on who's actually reading the newsletter by the amount of people that actually showed up. But apparently it's only John that doesn't read the newsletter because he's the only one that sat by me and listened. So, with that said, well, before we dive deep into this, I want to thank Lisa again and also point out that this was a joint effort. So all the credit, or more likely the blame, should be distributed evenly between us. So we start our journey. If I can get this, it's not clicking.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay. Start our journey in 1977, 1978. I talked to Elmer and asked him what his fondest memories of being a Rotary president was. And he said it was a long time ago. I know myself, I was in diapers at the time when Elmer was president. So, but he said it was a really an eye-opening experience, and he really enjoyed being president of this club. And I asked him what it means to him to be a Rotarian, and he said the friendship and communicating with the group, and real special thanks to Steve Dahl for all his help in getting him here each and every week. So from there, we moved to 1982, and I talked to Robert Daly. He said that the most memorable thing during his time here as Rotary president was women were able to join Rotary at that time. So that was a big thing that stuck out in his mind. And as far as being a Rotarian, he said to him it meant fundamentally the four-way test is a good way to lead your life. So, and then I asked Bob just a random question so we could kind of get to know him a little bit better. And he said that in 1983, he had bought a farm and he was currently learning how to farm. So there's something we maybe didn't know about Bob. And then I talked to Raleigh Solberg, and during his presidency was when we first started emphasizing the elimination of polio. So that was one thing that really stuck out in his mind about his time as president. And what it meant to him as far as being a Rotarian. He said, meeting quality people who share the same purpose to do great things was his big thing as far as being a Rotarian. Jack Hazy responded to me. He's actually down south, traveling around the south. And Jack started, he claimed, now we might have a little bit of a controversy here because the next president also claimed this, but that he had started reciting the four-way test, and that was his greatest accomplishment as Rotary president. But Jack is most proud of his 38 years of perfect attendance and to continue to be able to be an active Rotarian. So then next, Bob Bendixson. Bob, like I said, also stated that he started the four-way test, so we might have no problem there.
Isn't it true? Right? Look at each other when they said the
Oh, he improved on the four-way test. Okay. But Bob also, when I talked to Bob kind of, he he blew my mind a little bit. Bob also served as the district governor, and his greatest passion is Rotary International. But he mentioned to me that he recommended that Rotary International have a seat at the United Nations. And Bob was one of the driving factors behind that. So I thought that was pretty amazing, Bob. And Bob, right now, something you probably don't know about Bob is he enjoys Scandinavian figure carving. So he's working on that in his off time. Sharon Himes is our next, and Sharon was also district governor. And if you remember from my interview with Bob Daly, 1982 was the first time that women were allowed to join Rotary. And Sharon, in 1992, 10 years later, she was our president. So I thought that was pretty remarkable that 10 years after women were allowed to join Rotary, Sharon was our president. Just for comparison, in this country that we live in 1920 is when we passed the 19th Amendment, allowing women to vote, and we still have not had a female president. So I thought that was interesting. And in talking to Sharon, she joined Rotary to focus on international peace, but she said one of her greatest accomplishments that she felt, Jim Brenly, I think a lot of people know Jim Brenly, but she said he was a very, very polarizing figure who apparently thought that women would ruin Rotary. But during her time, he stood up and he apologized to all women in Rotary and said that he was wrong. So I thought that was great. And Sharon also shared with me, as far as something you guys might not know about Sharon, she's an artist at heart. And she really enjoys photography and art. So Chuck Hansen was our next Rotary president. Chuck was hard to get a hold of. When I called his office, I was referred to his legal counsel. I interviewed his legal counsel, and here's how that went. Can I get out of it?
It's okay, we get it.
No sound.
Hold on. Feel free to play it. You gotta sing it. Okay, take it from the top. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that.
You about your client Chuck Hansen and his time as president of Rotary Club of La Crosse in 1993 through 1994.
I don't know if that was the date or not. He was club president. I know that. Darn it. And he was a man of impeccable character. I don't think he ever made a mistake. Did you know that he's a lawyer?
What were some of your client's greatest accomplishments as Rotary president?
Some of his greatest accomplishments as Rotary president. Now that's a very interesting question. I'll take the fifth on that on his behalf, because he's willing to answer the question, but just because I don't want to have to go through all this for your audience. Okay, next question.
Was there anything that your client wanted to accomplish that he wasn't able to when he was Rotary Club president?
Again, that's a very interesting question. It's not easy to answer these hard questions, you know. Anything he wanted to accomplish that he didn't. Well, I don't know. You know, he got a lot of calls from the White House when he was president. They wanted to know how you actually act as president. I don't think, I think he's a great guy, you know, and he did a lot for Rotary and he did a lot for lacrosse. By golly, I think they should rename the Mississippi River Act.
Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you very much. And, where do I send the bill here?
Yes, I too was shocked that Chuck could afford such fine legal advice. Our next president. Whoa.
Trying again.
Was Anita. Anita's greatest accomplishment, when I talked to her, she said that when she was president, that's when Kids Coulee got built. And that meant a lot to Anita. And I asked her what Rotary means to her, and she said Rotary is a place where she can feel comfortable doing things with other people, for people, and also she loves the friendships that she's built here. And Anita also has a dog named Luna, so something you maybe didn't know about Anita. Our next president was a trap, a Dave Trap. Oh, we're going the wrong way.
Yeah, we are. Sorry.
Dave Trapp's fondest memory as president was during his time, the Joint Chief of Staff actually came to speak to the club. So Dave said he had to spend some quality time with the FBI and the government. So I'm not sure if I believe that it was for the Joint Chief of Staff coming, but the experience was something he said was a once-in-a-lifetime experience and he never wants to go through again. But then I asked Dave, you know, what does Rotary mean to you? And he said it really defines how he lives his life through the four-way test, and that was pretty cool. The next guy following Dave is a guy who is probably a little bit of an unknown here because he's such a humble and quiet person. So I couldn't even say that with a straight face. So I Googled Todd Ondell. You guys recognize Todd Ondell, of course. And it was kind of funny. There was a couple extra pictures here that showed up of him in Lederhosen, which is good. And this one of him scaring a little kid here to tears. But I actually, I talked to Todd, had an interesting conversation with him a couple weeks ago, and it was very interesting to me. He told me that he just, like a year ago, learned how to go fishing. And I thought that was pretty interesting. At least it caught me off guard that Todd had never been fishing. So, but he looked at me and he said, you know, you can catch these fish, and some people even eat them. And I was like, yeah, that's interesting, Todd. So now I have a goal this summer, which is to take this giant kid fishing. So that'll be good. Following Todd was Peter Grabo. And Peter said his highlight was asking Mike Desmond to chair the Mobile Meals Committee, and said that Mike has done just a wonderful job with that and is still continuing with that, and that Mike should be the Rotarian of the Year every year. So also we had major advances in Rotary Lights during his time in the Brain Games. So and we also helped outfit a library in Luang, China. So I got almost a book back from Peter with all the accomplishments. So it's really a remarkable year. And to Peter, Rotary is family because of the great relationships and accomplishments we have achieved here through the years. And something you maybe don't know about Peter is he has two dogs, Tucker and Yoshi. So Mike Hartigan, I talked to him this morning, apparently, as he just stepped out of the shower. So he didn't have a whole lot as far as answers for me. Luckily he didn't slip and fall. Oh, he was talking to me, but Mike said one of his most memorable accomplishments was working with the district conference and being part of putting that all together. And as far as what Rotary meant to him, he said that his dad was a Rotarian, his brother was a Rotarian, and early on in his working life, he was terribly, terribly busy and just bogged down with work. And he saw Rotary as a great outlet to make him and allow him to be a greater part of this great community that we have here in La Crosse. Little known fact about Mike is he used to own an antique store back in the day, so I thought that was interesting. Debbie Johnson, her greatest accomplishment was $1 million of medical equipment that we sent to a children's hospital in Romania during her time, which is amazing. And in the first year of her presidency, we made a $100,000 commitment to Polio Plus. And we also started a food garden on the south side during her time as president. Her greatest, she, as far as what Rotary means to her, is friendship, commitment, and leadership, and diversity, and she also really loves Rotary International. Ann Snow was our shortest term president. Unfortunately, she had some family issues that forced her to resign. But this process, well, in talking to Ann, well, it was very frustrating to Ann. It gave her great strength and perseverance. So she is most proud of her work here at Rotary with the Rotary Youth Exchange. And she also shared with me that her favorite color is orange, something I maybe didn't know. Dean Dickinson. Now, all of us would probably think that Dean's greatest accomplishment in life has been Dean's marbles. We were wrong. There was a great accomplishment. I got the whole backstory on it. But he said during his time, he found out that we were 40,000 short of meeting Polio Plus campaign. And with about 4 months to go on our deadline, he was able to raise that money in about 4 months and really put things together. Actually, when I was talking to Dean, he's at Disneyland right now, so he was standing in line to get a roller coaster ride, and was telling me all about this roller coaster and how crazy it would be. Well, I was going through this conversation with him, so that was interesting. But he said that Rotary to him is a way of life. It's a system of values that help you lead a better life and impact change in the world. Dean was also a district governor for us in 2009 and 2010. Peter Krause. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a hold of Peter because he's in Florida right now. But he did send us a selfie from Florida. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that that's not a selfie of Peter. I'm not sure how he got a picture of Ryan Geister to send me, but somehow. So, and that brings us to Bill Hull. Bill Hull had a couple of things he remembered fondly from his presidency. During that time, they raised funds to donate 140 wheelchairs to our sister city, Dubna, Russia. And he brought together past presidents and presidents-elect in a council to enhance communication and continuity within the club. So those were things that were very important to Bill. Bill also, one thing that he just loves about Rotary is operating the high-rise over at the Rotary Lights. And he loves taking people up in that high-rise and freaking them out a little bit. So that's one of those things about Bill. Then that brings us to Catherine Sexauer. Catherine truly believes our club practices service above self and credits all of her accomplishments as president to our members, and especially Lynn. So that was nice. Catherine also has a dog named Buddy, and her favorite color is red. She liked my coat today. That brings us to David Amborn. I was not able to reach David Amborn until I saw him sit down at the table. So, and it was kind of funny because all these presidents were kind of a little paranoid. They're like, don't pick on me, but you can pick on David. That's fine. Go ahead. And then I talked to David, and he's like, you sure you don't want me to just come up and talk for 15 minutes? It'll be a heck of a lot better. But David was most proud of Rotary, of the Rotary Works Foundation, I believe it was the Rotary Works Foundation really got started and kicked off under David's presidency. So, Trish Grayson, in talking to Trish, our motto, service above self, is what she said is most important to her, and not looking for personal recognition.